Hey everybody, this is Tom with VermiBag. Today's video I'm going to go over something that I did 2 years ago. I had a raised bed garden that I made out of cinder blocks, and I wanted to raise it a foot. And in order to do that, I would have to add a lot more topsoil, because a 4-foot by 8-foot section would take a tremendous amount of extra topsoil. So instead of adding topsoil to it, what I did was add a bunch of organic material to the bottom section, the bottom foot of the bed, and that included a whole bunch of jasmine pieces that I'd cut off a hedge here, scraps and stuff off the ground, a bunch of cardboard, shredded paper, just miscellaneous items, anything that was organic. And I filled that bottom foot section of that bed with this organic material that would decompose. And then on the top foot I added my really good soil and then went ahead and planted it. Now that's been 2 years, I mean almost to the date. I think it was May 10th, 2 years ago. So today I want to go in there and I want to take a look and dig down into that bottom foot and see what that material looks like. I mean, was I successful at actually making soil? And that was the whole premise of the video that I made that time, is that I was going to make soil in the future that I was going to use today. But now I've already taken off the top foot because I've been filling up some vermi beds with soil. So the top foot, the original material that I put in on that top foot, I've taken most of that off. So we're going to go over there now and dig down inside there and see what that bottom layer looks like. I had put in some pretty big chunks of wood and stuff in there, so I'm sure there's going to be some stuff in there, but I'm really curious to see what the material looks like down in that bottom section. Now I'm going to go ahead and be running a little thumbnail of the video that I did doing this raised bed and adding this material, and I'll run it up here in the top of this video and stuff. You can kind of see it. And I'm also going to put a video link down below, so if you want to go in and watch that video on how I raised this bed up and all the material and stuff I put in and the full length, go ahead and click on that video and watch that. But otherwise, let's go over here and we'll dig up a little bit and see exactly what's underneath there now. Was I successful at making good soil with all this stuff I put in there 2 years ago? Okay, so like I said, I went ahead and removed the top foot of soil in here, and I used it in a vermi bed there. So all the material that's from this point down a foot is actually all that cardboard and this jasmine and all this stuff that I threw in there 2 years ago. So as I dig down through this other section, if you watch the video that I have going on here, I mean, this was just a solid mass of organic material that was compacted down. I wetted it down. I threw worm castings and stuff on it for they could start working the material. But it was really a big solid mass of stuff. So let's dig down in this and see what's underneath here now. So far it's just soil. You wouldn't know there was anything down there. And I'm all the way, I just hit the hard pack down below. A little piece of plastic that went through a shredder, it looks like, that didn't decompose, of course. Now I'll bring you in a little bit closer here and we can kind of look at this pile of material that I'm digging out. But I'm going down the full foot and I haven't hit a single solid item. I mean, it just looks like soil. Now there's some little pieces of bark. You can't see it from that far away, but I'll show you when I come in that, you know, have almost decomposed completely. I'm kind of curious because I know there was a great big tree branch down in here. There's another. Oh, well, the plastic didn't decompose. All the plastic, this is some tape, it looks like. Again, the only thing I'm finding is actually pieces of tape or plastic that was in the material that I put down there that day, probably along with the shredded paper and cardboard, because I never pulled tape off of the cardboard. Very surprising, as I haven't hit that big, huge branch well, let me show you this. This is pretty cool. Pretty cool grub. That thing's huge. That is a monster grub. I'm not sure exactly what that thing is, but it was down there actually helping compost all that material for sure. So whatever it is, I'm not going to kill it. I have no idea what it is for. And honestly, it's actually very surprising to me, because I thought there would be, I know there was a great big huge branch down here that I put in, but it seems like it's completely gone. Now, you can see this material here. There's chunks, little small chunks of, branches and stuff. There's a little tiny branch and stuff, but these things are really decomposing. There's not much left to them. Little pieces of bark. But again, everything's really decomposed. And I'm down to the hard pack down there, so there was nothing down below that. I'm down to natural ground right there. But only thing I'm finding is any non-organic material that's left. So you can see, some of the material here that's still decomposing. There's the white, must be some type of algae or fungus or something that's helping decompose it. But again, pieces of plastic or tape are the only thing I'm finding. So, 2 years adding all that material, and now I got all this free soil just from throwing a bunch of wood and stuff in there, and I was only required to put a foot of topsoil on here, but now I have 2 feet of topsoil. So it works really, really well. And this material that's down below here is going to be really nice material. There's going to be a lot of organic material in it, and there'll be a lot of nutrients and stuff too for your plants. And what I'll do is I'll mix this whole thing in now with a little bit of the new worm compost material out of my worm bins, and it'll work really, really well for growing next year or this year. And do a close-up of some of this material if you can see, the organic content, and you can definitely see the pieces that are decomposing still. There's some pieces of bark, it looks like, that came off of something, and definitely here there's material that is still, there's a rubber band, so of course it's not going to ever decompose. But overall, the material is probably, I would say, 95% decomposed now. And this is a combination of just time, but also with the worms that we put in there and things like that grub that I have. That grub looked pretty intimidating, but it was down there, munching on a lot of this stuff. So again, you can see here, that looks like a piece of an Amazon box, probably the tape, that fabric tape. But I tell you, most of it's decomposed except for some of these fibers and stuff that are on here. So overall, I'm really impressed. You tell me below, was I successful in actually making soil in the future that I was able to use that day? I actually think I was. This soil took 2 years to make, but yet I was actually using it for the last 2 years as well. So it's a really neat way of actually saving yourself a lot of money. So what do you think? Do you think I was successful at making soil in the future that I was actually able to use today? At least 2 years ago. Yeah, I really think I was. And I know up in Germany they do this a lot. I've seen it with a lot of the stuff they do there. They throw big old logs, great big logs. And that would work just fine. It would take more than 2 years for it to decompose. But so if you're trying to make a raised bed garden and you don't want to put that much soil in, and it's a waste of money to put 2 feet of soil, because 90% of your vegetables or flowers or whatever, they're never going to go down to that depth. And you really don't want to, just put rocks and stuff like that down there. You might as well use that area to your benefit and make some more soil. So if you're setting up a raised bed garden like that, fill the bottom up with organic material. Now, it can be big logs, wood pieces, I mean, almost anything you want, or just pure cardboard. I'm actually going to do another video, hopefully today, on setting up a new raised bed garden, and that's all I'm really going to do is add a tremendous amount of cardboard on the bottom with layers of dirt in between for I get a lot of worm action in there and stuff, start decomposing it. And that's mainly because I don't want to add, you know, totally a foot of soil. And the nice thing about adding like cardboard is as the roots and stuff get down into that cardboard, they'll go right through that cardboard because it's going to be wet. It starts falling apart almost immediately once it's been in the ground for, you know, a few weeks. But again, I can save half of the cost on the topsoil that I'd have to put into that system. And I basically make some topsoil for free between natural decay of this material, whatever it happens to be, and the action of the worms. So, you know, I think this was a huge success. Throwing material in there, and you can see the wonderful material that I ended up with, you know, 2 years later. And if you've done stuff like this before, I'd love to hear from you down below to help other people and encourage them to do this same kind of thing. So that's all I have today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, this is Tom from VermiBag. Ciao.